ranking every championship striker for how many goals I think they'll score this season. Let's go. So guys, welcome back to the channel. As always, I like to bring to you guys these tier list videos, but we're switching it up a little bit. So we're going to be ranking championship strikers, but not on their overall ability, purely on how many goals I think they'll score this season. So the categories we'll be putting them into, either I think they'll get 0 to 4 goals, 5 to 9, 10 to 14, 15 to 19, 20 to 24, or 25 plus. Strikers from your clubs, let me know down below, how many goals do you realistically think they'll score this season? And just before we do hop into anything, I must give a big shout out to our sponsors over at OneFootball. So as always, you can find the new OneFootball app in the top line of the description down below. Would highly recommend it. We've got a lot of championship football going on at the moment. Obviously, we've got the games going on tonight, and we had all the ones that went on last night as well. A lot of drama in the championship. I mean, Preston got that mad win over Bournemouth. But if you want to get live updates to your phone whenever a goal does go in, OneFootball's the place to do that. Read up on all the latest articles and stats from players around your club. So I'll leave a link in the top line of the description down below. And before we do hop into anything, make sure to leave a like and please do subscribe if you do go on to enjoy today's video. We're pushing our way towards 30,000 subscribers, so if you could help us out, that would be massively appreciated. But without any further ado, let's go. And so we'll start out with Cardiff striker Kiefer Moore. He did bag a brace in the championship last night, and there's a lot to like about Kiefer Moore's game. Already this season in 14 starts, he scored 7 goals, so he's already on his way to matching his tally of 10 last season for Wigan. I've always quite liked him. Preston tried to sign him while he was at Rotherham, and obviously he then made his move to Wigan and then to Cardiff. I think that the thing about Kiefer Moore and the sort of target man that he is, he can have a good game without scoring a goal, which is something that we can't say for all the strikers on this list. I originally had him as a 10 to 14 goal striker this season, but I may move that up come the end of the video. Next up then we go to Derby County's Martin Waghorn. Now last season for Derby did get into double figures. He scored 12 goals and got 3 assists to go alongside it. This season's been a little bit slower. The 2 goals he has scored have been pure quality, both free kicks. So those 2 goals currently are the only ones he does have for the season. Derby as well currently being the lowest scoring side in the league. They're going to be reliant on someone like Martin Waghorn eventually coming good from open play and grabbing a few more goals for himself. This season, I'm not sure if he'll match his tally from last time. I'm going to say he's a 5 to 9 goal striker this time. Next up then to Swansea City's Andre Ayew. Now I wouldn't particularly class him as an out and out striker, but that's the role he's been playing this season with the new formation that Swansea have been going with, and he's very much their main man now. You know, last season he had like Ryan Brewster to really chip in with the goals. This season, I mean last time round he scored 16 goals for Swansea, but this time there's more emphasis I feel on his goals, so he could go one better. Already had a really good start to the season so far. In 12 starts he's got 6 goals, so averaging a goal every other game for them. I'm going to take a bit of a gamble on Ayew and say that he may go on and hit 20 goals this season. Next up then to Watford's João Pedro, only 19 years old. The Brazilian's been a really exciting player in the championship so far this season. He's got 5 goals already. With Watford, the only concern I'd have over strikers getting goals is how much rotation there could be. Obviously, they've got a lot of strikers in that squad at the moment, so there is the potential for him to be, you know, sat out on the bench for 3 or 4 games. But out of all the strikers that Watford have, I'd probably be most confident in João Pedro getting the most amount of minutes this season. He's already come up with several match-winning moments for them so far this season. Got a good goal against Preston at the weekend, and I mean that goal against Darby is still one of the best of the season so far. João Pedro this season, I'd back him to get at least 15 to 19 goals. I'd put him in that bracket, I think. Next up then to Rotherham's Freddie Ladapo. Now, my opinion on him has slightly changed over the last couple of weeks. After that brace he scored against Bournemouth, I think he may get on the end of a few more goals this season than I originally thought. I think he's a player who's going to go hot and cold throughout the season, but I wouldn't be all surprised to see him hit like maybe 10 or 11 goals this season, so I'm going to put him in that category, I think. Next up then to Brentford's Ivan Toney. I think we all know what category Toney's going to go into, but Brentford in general have just produced some wonderful strikers over the last couple of years. Like, if we look at the last 2 seasons, for example, Watkins last year got 26 goals for them. The season before that, they had Neil Maupay, who scored 25 goals for them. So 2 25-goal plus strikers in the last 2 years for Brentford. I think they've got another one on their hands here. Got another goal in midweek in 15 starts for Brentford this season. Has already got 13 goals. He's been ridiculously clinical. Ivan Toney, I've got to stick him in that top category, 25 goals plus. Guys, let me know down below how many goals do you think he finishes the season on. After that, we go to QPR's Macaulay Bonne. He did get into double figures last season for Charlton, but probably played a bit more football than he first expected to with the injury to Lyle Taylor. This season for QPR so far, most of his minutes have come off the bench, but he has come up with a couple of decent goals for them. I'd say Macaulay Bonne this season probably gets into that 5 to 9 goal category. Next up then to Barnsley's Coley Woodrow, one of my personal favourites in the league actually. I think he's really underrated. Last season played a lot of the season for Barnsley as a number 10 and got 14 goals for them. This season has been playing a little bit further up. He got a goal and an assist last night. I think there's real potential this season for Woodrow to get 15 to 19 goals, you know. I'm going to put him in that category. Next up then we go to Nottingham Forest Lyle Taylor, who has seemingly been Forest's main man going forward recently with the goal drought that Lewis Graven finds himself at the moment, but we'll get to Graven later on in the video. In terms of Lyle Taylor, really good goals to game ratio last season with Charlton, and in a side that has struggled for goals so far this season, Lyle Taylor has been Forest's top scorer. He's actually the only player to score more than 1 goal for them so far this season. He's on 4 at the moment. I'm going to put him in the 10 to 14 zone. I do think he'll get double figures this season. Next up then to Wycombe's Akinfenwa. Now this video is not going to do justice to the players who offer more than goals as a striker, and that's something that Akinfenwa's done. I think he's been a really positive influence on this Wycombe side since coming back into the side. However, in terms of a goal output this season, I think he'll get more assists than he will goals. I think he's a very good hold-up player. He's a handful for defenders and allows other players to get into some good positions. In terms of his actual output so far this season, if I had to put money on it, I don't think he'll get more than 4 goals for me. And the next one's in a very similar mould. Derby County's Colin Kazim-Richards now did score for them in midweek, his first goal of the season. Very much in the sort of Chris Martin mould. He's actually been really good in his last 2 appearances against Wycombe and Coventry, albeit against 2 of the sort of more shakier defences in the league so far. But nevertheless, I wouldn't be at all surprised to see him finish the season with like maybe 3 or 4 goals and then 7 or 8 assists or something like that. I think he brings others into play really well, and for Derby this season, if they are going to score more goals, it's all about the 3 off the striker for me. It's a question of will he get all too much game time past January where they may bring in another striker. Put in bottom category for now, but I may move that one up. It's a difficult one. After that we then get to one of the most exciting forwards in the league at the moment. That is Stoke City's Tyrese Campbell. Now, one thing that may or may not go against Campbell in terms of actual goal output is how diverse he is. You know, he can play anywhere across the forward line, either as a centre forward, on the left or on the right, and we've seen that so far this season from him. I also think he'll get a bucket load of goal contributions. I think he'll be right up there for assists this season. Already got 5 to his name. He's already just 3 goals away from matching his tally from last season. I think that this time round, I think he gets close to 20 goals, but I'm not sure he quite gets it. I'm going to put him in that 15 to 19 goal zone. After that, we then go to Middlesbrough's Brit Assombalonga, one of the real championship household names now, isn't he? In his last 4 seasons, he's managed to hit double figures. Has always sort of been that player who does drift in and out of form. You know, if you catch him on a good day, he can be absolutely clinical. On a bad day, however, he can't seem to hit a barn door. But Assombalonga, I do like. I think he's a bit of an intelligent striker. I think he's growing into that role at Middlesbrough now. He's one of the leaders in that dressing room, it would seem, as well. I think it's safe to say that Assombalonga will probably get into double figures this season, so I'd back him to get 10 to 14 goals. Next up then to Bristol City's Chris Martin. Now this sort of video, when we're judging strikers off goals alone, doesn't do someone like Chris Martin justice. Already this season has 4 assists to his name, but only the 1 goal. I think that if we're talking about assists, he probably does go on and get into double figures. He was brilliant for that with Darby last season. All in all though, I do think that Martin will chip in with quite a few goals as the season goes on for Bristol City. I'd back him to get at least 5 to 9 this season. Next up then to Blackburn Rovers' Adam Armstrong. Now as of recording, it's both Armstrong and Tony that lead the way in the championship in terms of goals scored, both 13 so far this season, but Armstrong does play tonight against Millwall, so could pull ahead. His strike rate has been absolutely unbelievable. Last season was a really good one for Armstrong where he got 16, but he's already just 3 goals away from matching that output from last season. I think that the way Blackburn now set up with this sort of 4-3-3, this dynamic forward line, really suits Armstrong, especially with how they play on transitions. I actually put a poll up the other day for you guys to vote on. Who do you think scores more goals this season, Adam Armstrong or Ivan Toney? And 67% of you voted for Ivan Toney, so I'd be interested in the comments down below how many goals do you think they each finish on. If he does manage to keep up this strike rate or anywhere near it, I think it's got to be 25 plus for him. Next up we then go to Birmingham's Lucas Djukovic. Now he's been a fantastic player for Birmingham over the years, hasn't he? 29 goals actually in his last 2 seasons for them. This time round, however, with the way they're setting up under Aitor Karanka, it's not suited to his strengths, I don't feel like, and I would be surprised if he matched anywhere near that goal tally this time round. For a goal contribution this season, not sure he'll hit double figures. I'm going to go 5 to 9 goals for him. And next up we get to Reading's Lucas Jow. Now I've been banging the Lucas Jow drum for quite a number of years now. I've always maintained the opinion that if he stays fit over a full season, there's real potential there for him to be hitting 20 goals, and we've never really seen it from him in the Championship purely because of his injury record. However, now finally with Reading and the way they're setting up at the moment, this looks looks like it could be this season, and touch wood he manages to stay fit because he's been absolutely superb for them so far. And what I would also say about Lucas João is he's probably one of the most complete strikers in the league actually. You know, Tony's probably the most clinical, Armstrong's brilliant at running off the last man and getting in behind. Lucas João though, when it comes to finishing, physicality, speed, bringing others into play, his passing range, he's got it absolutely all going for him. It's just a question of if he can stay fit. You know, I think the most he's mustered in the Championship is 18 starts. That's the only thing that's really holding me back from putting him in that top category, but I think he gets 20 goals this season. He's already on 9 for the year. Next we're then to QPR's Lyndon Dykes. Now a fair few of these goals may end up coming from the penalty spot, but boy does he take a fierce penalty. I wouldn't be at all surprised to see Dykes getting into double figures this season. I think he's a good aerial threat. The goal he scored against Brentford was absolutely brilliant. It was a great ball in from Asai Samuel. I think this season he gets about 10 to 14 goals. He's already on 5 for the season. Millwall have struggled for goals so far this season, and Bodvardson's not really added to that tally. He's yet to get off the mark for them this far into the year. Has mostly been used as that sort of impact substitute. He can be a real handful for defenders, but I'm not sure how many goals he finishes this season. On last season for Millwall got 4 goals. I think this time round probably ends the season on a similar amount. Next up then for Huddersfield's Fraser Campbell. Now we mentioned it a few times on the channel so far. Huddersfield, if they had an out-and-out goal scorer, they'd be a really good side in the Championship this season with the sort of football they're playing. Fraser Campbell though does do a job, albeit he's not for me an out-and-out goal scorer at this point of his career. At 33 I don't think he's going to be banging them in week to week. I'd say sort of like a maybe 5 to 9 goal a season striker at the moment. Next up then we get to Bristol City striker Nahki Wells. He was on target last night for Bristol City against his former side QPR, got a goal and an assist in that one. Nahki Wells I do like a lot. I feel like he's a bit of a streaky striker whereby he'll go like 5 or 6 games without scoring and then over his next 4 games will get like 9 goals or something like that. And this season I do think he is Bristol City's biggest goal scoring threat going forward. In terms of goal contributions, I think he may get close to 20, you know. I'm going to go 15 to 19 for Nahki Wells. Next up then for Wycombe, Scott Cashgett. Now we've seen him playing a variety of positions so far this season. We've seen him as a striker, as a number 10 out wide, a little bit deeper in midfield. Their top scorer so far this season with 3 goals, and come the end of the season I think he does get in that sort of 5 to 9 goal range. Next up then we got Norwich's Teemu Pukki, undoubtedly one of the most clinical strikers that we've seen in this level over the past few years. If you watched my video yesterday you'll have seen him on that one, but 29 goals he scored last time at this level. I'm not sure if he'll match that goal tally this time round, but I still think he's in for a very good one. Him and Buendia have the link up between them. There may be a little bit more rotation in the Norwich front line and depending on injuries as well, but for Pukki I still think he'll score over 20 goals this season. Up next we then got Dom Solanki of Bournemouth. Fits into that forward 3 quite nicely actually, and for Solanki's career, Bournemouth getting relegated to the Championship wasn't the worst thing in the world that could have happened really. Obviously he's now got his chance ahead of Wilson, who's now gone, and Josh King as well. 5 goals and 3 assists already for Solanki this season. I'm going to say he's going to hit at least 15 goals for the year. I think that front 3 will score a lot. Then go to Jamal Lowe of Swansea City, another one like Ayew who's not really a natural striker but has been playing that role for Swansea so far this season. Now his movement is absolutely brilliant. He gets into some really good areas, but he's not a natural finisher. I think he should have more goals than the 2 he's already got this season. I'd say he probably fits into that 5 to 9 goal category. I'm going to throw Coventry's Tyler Walker into that category as well, considering that this is his first proper full season at Championship level. I think that if he gets around like maybe like 8 or 9 goals, that'll be a fairly good return for him. Next up then for Luton's James Collins. Now only 2 goals this far into this season, but he is one of Luton's main goal threats going forward. Him and Cornick play together quite well. A lot of their attacking moves go through him. He's going to be on penalties as well. I'm going to back him to get into double figures again. Next up then for Preston North End's Emil Reece-Jacobson, our only summer signing. Now so far this season just got the 1 goal for himself, but to be honest that probably should be a little bit more with the quality performances that he's been putting in. If he was on penalties I think there'd be quite a high possibility of him getting into double figures, but probably North End's top scorer this season will be Scott Sinclair. I mean, he scored an absolute worldie of a goal in midweek, and with a bit of the rotation that we use going forward, Reece for his first season in England probably will be around that 5 to 9 goal mark. To be honest I think a lot of our forwards will be the likes of Maguire, Stockley and Reece. I think they all probably fit around that category. Next up then for Sheffield Wednesday's Jordan Rhodes. I think that goals will be an issue for Wednesday this season, and I'm not sure if Rhodes is the answer to all those problems they're having at the moment. He's got 1 goal to his name this far into the year. That was on the opening day of the season. At the weekend he was subbed on, then subbed off by Tony Pulis, so clearly isn't to his fancy. Last season just got the 3 goals, all of which came at the City ground in that remarkable hat-trick he scored, but this time round I'm going to put him bottom category 0 to 3 for me I think. And it's a very similar story that I've got with Jack Marriott as well. I wouldn't be all too surprised to see this loan spell potentially cut short. Obviously injuries really have taken away from the player that Marriott could have gone on to be, but at this level at the moment I can't see him getting more than 4 goals, to be honest with you. George Puskas for Reading. This one very much depends on the fitness of Lucas João. You know, if João does get injured for a lengthy period of time, then Puskas will obviously be Reading's main man going forward. But the majority of his minutes have come off the bench so far this season. If it stays like that, I'd probably see him chipping in with 5 to 9 goals this season. Last season did get into double figures, but this season game time may be a little bit more limited. Next up we go to Birmingham, Scott Hogan. Birmingham fans will be very interested to know how many goals do you realistically see Hogan scoring this season. Now, last season when he originally signed for Birmingham, he went on that ridiculous run of form, and lockdown probably didn't come at a great time for him, as after that he couldn't really seem to get back on to that sort of same level. But so far this season does have a couple of goals. If I had to bet on it, I'd probably throw him similar to Djukovic around that sort of 5 to 9 goal mark. For Brentford's Marcus Forss, I mean, he's probably the best super sub in the league, isn't he? 11 of his appearances this season have come off the bench, and he's already got 5 goals to his name. He seems to play that role brilliantly, and if the majority of his minutes do come off the bench this season, I think he'll get into double figures, but how many is the question? I'd back him to get sort of 10 to 14 goals, I'd say. Now the next one's a bit of a controversial one. That is Lewis Graven. Now, he's not had the ideal season so far. Yet to hit the back of the net, he's had a bit of an injury and he's been sat on the bench for a bit of the season as well. However, we all know the quality that Lewis Graven has. I mean, last season scored 20 goals for Forest. One of the most prolific strikers we've seen in the Championship over the last decade. In some of the games, I think you can argue maybe he got a little bit unlucky. I mean, that game against QPR they had right at the start of the season, he could have had a hat-trick that day. If his luck starts to turn around and if things start to fall for him, he could score a bucket full of goals, but it's just a question of does he want it and when is he going to get back into the side. Interestingly enough, when he first signed for Forest, I think he didn't score for his first 7 matches, and then after that completely took off and was scoring every week. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that he may end up getting into double figures and have a big second half to the season, but I am sort of on the fence with that one. Next up for Tuba Akpom of Middlesbrough. Started out really well for Middlesbrough, putting a string of fantastic performances, but since has gone a little bit more quiet on the goal front. If he does manage to rekindle a bit of that form and gets himself back starting week to week, he has the potential to hit double figures, I think. Troy Parrott for Millwall. We're still really waiting to see what he's actually capable of doing. Obviously, a lot of hopes for Millwall, I think, going forward are pinned on Troy Parrott coming good eventually, but it has been an area where they have struggled so far goal scoring with Millwall. I think he will chip in with the goals, maybe not as many as we first initially all thought. I'd say he probably falls into that sort of 5 to 9 goal category at the moment. Jeju of Bristol City, this far into the season has been more used as an impact sub coming off the bench. If he continues to play that role for the majority of the season, then I'm not sure if he'll quite match his goal tallies from previous seasons. He has hit double figures in each of the years that he has been at Bristol City so far, but if he continues to play in that role, probably drop him to the sort of 5 to 9 goal category. Mike Godden at Coventry is another really tough one to judge, actually. Initially, I did have him in that 10 to 14 goal list, but with the news of his recent injury, you know, how long could that set him back for? It's a difficult one without knowing all the ins and outs in terms of how long he's actually going to be out for with this injury. I've still got him in that 10 to 14 goal category, but that's very much injury dependent. And another one which very much depends on fitness is Stoke City's Stephen Fletcher. Now, I quite like Fletcher. He had a terrific year last time with Sheffield Wednesday, and he has done fairly well for Stoke so far this season, 4 goals to his name. However, with the current injury that he does have, it's unknown how long he'll be out for. I would have had him in that 10 to 14 goal range, but once again, depends on fitness. Troy Deeney at Watford, I still think he's a player who will do a job for them. At the weekend against Preston, I thought he was brilliant leading the line. That was in his first start for the season, took a penalty and scored, and also got a fantastic assist in that game. I think he'll chip in here and there when he needs to, and I see him being in that sort of 5 to 9 goal range, similar to quite a few of the strikers at Watford, actually. But guys, there we have it. There are my rankings of Championship strikers for how many goals I realistically see them scoring this season. So what would you change about my list on there? If I had to change one at the end of the video, maybe bump Kiefer more up a tier with the way he's playing at the moment, but we'll wait and see till the end of the season. I'm interested to see how this one comes in. If I've not included the striker from your club, chances are they went in the 5 to 9 goal category. I just couldn't fit them all onto the graphic, but do leave them in the comments down below and I'll say how many goals I realistically think they'll finish on this season. But apart from that, thanks for watching, guys. Make sure to leave a like if you did go on to enjoy, and please do subscribe for a bit of regular Championship content. But apart from that, thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you all in the next one.